Not many places can boast the wow factor that Florence offers its visitors so generously. A stroll through the city, this unequaled open-air museum that never fails to amaze, is enough to understand why Florence is considered the cradle of the Renaissance. From imposing palazzi and magnificent squares to lifelike sculptures, iconic bridges, and glorious gardens, there's nothing mediocre about Florence. Florence is downright gorgeous, and falling in love with it is inevitable. So, please forgive us if this video about what to do in Florence for the first time may sound like a love letter to a city that had us under its spell the moment we set eyes on it. But why is art and architecture in Florence so grandiose? Founded by Julius Caesar in 59 BC, Florence was already a financial superpower as early as the 10th century AD. However, the city flourished between the 15th and 16th centuries under the rule of the Medici family. The latter invented the modern banking system and became great patrons of art. During that period, all the mastermind artists and architects of the time flocked to Florence to create some of the world's most precious masterpieces. The last of the House of Medici, Anna Maria Luisa, inherited the family's vast art collection and upon her death left it to the city of Florence on one condition: no piece of art would ever leave the city. The rest is history. One of the darkest moments in Florence's recent history was the Great Flood of the Arno River in 1966, which claimed many lives and destroyed or damaged numerous works of art. However, love and solidarity conquered, as volunteers from all over the globe contributed to the restoration of the damaged pieces of art. Florence is the capital of the Italian region of Tuscany. Before we explore what to do in Florence for the first time, here are a few essential things to remember. First, don't let the city's small size fool you. There are many fantastic things to do in Florence, and this is why we recommend spending at least 4 full days there. Moreover, if you're visiting Florence for the first time, try not to pack too much on the same day. It's better to skip an attraction altogether than constantly rush from one point of interest to the next. On a similar note, when in Florence, enjoy the little things. Take your time relishing stunning vistas of the Arno at every turn, or admiring centuries-old street art as you walk past the city's emblematic tabernacles. And please, don't waste time on long lines for the sake of Instagram trends. There is no evidence that Il Porcellino brings good luck, and All'Antico Vinaio isn't the only place to eat a good sandwich in Florence. By the way, now is a good time to address the elephant in the room: Florence's notorious crowds. Florence isn't the same city it was back in 2014 when we visited it for the first time. A decade ago, although the city was already popular, you could still navigate its museums and other points of interest easily, without putting up with endless queues or booking tickets months in advance. But this has now changed. Crowds in Florence can get unbearable, especially in and around the most famous attractions. This is why it's best to see the main sites on guided tours led by expert guides who will help you avoid the crowds and ensure you make the most of your visits to the city's museums and other attractions. This video is sponsored by Walks and Devour, two of our favorite tour companies that run tours in Florence among several other cities in Italy and the rest of Europe. Apart from their dedication to ethical and sustainable travel and their ongoing mission to support local businesses, what makes Walks and Devour stand out for us is their deep knowledge of Italy, a country we love with all our might. During our recent trip to Florence, we explored the city's main sites and savored unique tastes on sightseeing and food tours led by passionate guides. We also joined a fantastic day trip to Tuscany from Florence with Walks and Devour, and we couldn't dream of a better experience. In the description below, you can find links to all the tours we enjoyed, alongside a few more offered by Walks and Devour. But it's about time we showed you all the amazing things to see and do if you're visiting Florence for the first time. Every trip to Florence should start and end at Piazza della Signoria. The first time you go there, you will pinch yourselves to make sure you're not dreaming. The last time, you will try to hold back your tears as your lips form a vow to return to Florence before too long. Dominated by the majestic Palazzo Vecchio, Piazza della Signoria has been the city's political center since the Middle Ages. Nowadays, it epitomizes the essence of Italian beauty with its elegant Neptune's fountain, the original statues that adorn the loggia, and the replica of Michelangelo's David that stands where the original used to be until 1873. If Piazza della Signoria leaves you speechless, the famed Ponte Vecchio will have a similar effect. At the narrowest point of the Arno River, this legendary bridge was the only one spared during the Second World War. The shops that line Ponte Vecchio have been occupied by jewelers and goldsmiths since the mid-16th century, when butchers and tanners were no longer allowed to run their businesses on the bridge. The bridge's jewelry shops still attract hordes of people during their opening hours. Therefore, for a somewhat calmer stroll, visit Ponte Vecchio in the evening when its shops are closed for the day. Ponte Vecchio looks marvelous any time of the day. Yet, at sunset, it's breathtaking. Even more so if you see it from the nearby Ponte Santa Trinità. A fascinating fact about Ponte Vecchio is that part of the secret corridor built by Giorgio Vasari to connect Palazzo Pitti with Palazzo Vecchio runs above the bridge. Vasari also constructed the buildings that now house the Uffizi Galleries, probably your most significant sightseeing stop. If the word Uffizi rings a bell, it's because this building complex was constructed to house administration offices in the Medici era. Nowadays, the complex is home to one of the world's most distinguished art collections. Within its walls, you can admire paintings by genius artists such as Michelangelo, Raffaello, Caravaggio, Botticelli, Giotto, and many more. Botticelli's The Birth of Venus and the Spring will take your breath away. There is also a large collection of sculptures. The interior of the buildings is worth a visit in its own right for its elaborate ceilings and other special architectural elements. Not to mention the views. The volume of art that awaits inside the Uffizi Galleries and the large number of visitors can be overwhelming. That's why we highly recommend visiting the Uffizi Galleries on a guided tour. This will allow you to see the highlights of this immense art gallery without wasting valuable time navigating countless rooms and unbearable crowds on your own. To finish the bulk of your sightseeing in one go, you could opt for a tour that combines the Uffizi Galleries with a visit to the Galleria dell'Accademia, like we did. You can find the link to the tour we joined in the description below. Remember when we told you that Michelangelo's original David used to adorn Piazza della Signoria until 1873? Since then, this larger-than-life statue has called La Galleria dell'Accademia home. Seeing this masterpiece of Renaissance from up close is an emotional experience that not even the crowds jostling to take a selfie with David can spoil. Apart from David, La Galleria dell'Accademia displays several other unfinished sculptures that Michelangelo was told to drop in order to finish his David. The Cathedral of Florence, the city's indisputable symbol, is beyond words impressive. Dominating the lively Piazza del Duomo, the Cathedral of St. Mary of the Flower, or Santa Maria del Fiore in Italian, looks almost unreal with its pink, green and white details glistening under the Tuscan sun. Yet, what's most awe-inspiring about the Duomo of Florence is its dome. At the beginning of the 15th century, the cathedral was already finished. But was it though? The enormous construction was still missing its dome. Engineers had to come up with a way to construct the largest dome of all time and prevent it from collapsing under its own weight. That was no easy task to undertake, but Filippo Brunelleschi accepted the challenge. Armed with genius and intuition, Brunelleschi achieved the impossible, an engineering feat that any modern scientist would envy. Even if you're not a mathematics or physics enthusiast, you can't help but admire this gorgeous dome from every possible angle while strolling through the narrow alleys of Florence. Yet, nothing beats having a closer look at what the dome looks like inside on a tour that takes you from the gloomy depths of the dome to its splendid terraces and incredible views. That said, if you have claustrophobia, climbing to the dome via its dark, narrow passages might not be ideal. In the description below, we have included a link to a VIP tour of the Duomo after the crowds are gone. As a plus, during this tour, you get to watch the ritual of the key master turning the cathedral's lights off and locking its gates for the day. Before you leave Piazza del Duomo behind, take a moment to appreciate the baptistry with its beautiful bronze doors and Giotto's bell tower. Once you've gasped at the views from the Duomo, it's time to enjoy spectacular views of the Duomo too. Many will tell you that you will catch the best panoramas of the cathedral from Piazzale Michelangelo. They're not lying. These vistas are dreamy indeed. But there is a catch. Piazzale Michelangelo can get extremely busy, especially at sunset. So much so that watching the sunset over Florence from Piazzale Michelangelo has lost a lot of its magic. That said, you can't miss this view. Just don't plan to spend a lot of time at Piazzale Michelangelo. We have a better suggestion, only a few steps away. One of the most scenic churches in all of Italy, San Miniato Al Monte, crowns a hill near Piazzale Michelangelo. It offers equally superb views of Florence's skyline, but in a more peaceful setting. The interior of the church is also worth your time, as is its monumental cemetery. The latter is the resting place of several prominent Italians, such as film director Franco Zeffirelli. To make your way back to the city center, we recommend a pleasant downhill walk to Porta San Nicolò and a stroll through the quaint San Nicolò neighborhood. This way, you will balance the busy atmosphere of Piazzale Michelangelo, but also start your quest to discover one of the most authentic parts of Florence, Oltrarno. This district spreads along the south bank of the river Arno. Its laid-back squares, such as Piazza Santo Spirito or Piazza del Carmine, are the best places to unwind after a day of sightseeing. Another wonderful way to explore Oltrarno is through its taste on a food and wine tour that will also introduce you to the area's famous wine windows while saving you their notorious queues. Speaking of food, Florence's markets are great places to try local specialities, buy Italian-made delicacies, and watch local life go by. Although Florence's central market is quite popular, it didn't click with us. On the contrary, we loved the vibe of Sant'Ambrogio Market instead. We've been to Sant'Ambrogio Market quite a few times, one of them on a guided tour that we are linking to in the description below. Every time, we were mesmerized by the colors, tastes and flavors of the fresh local produce, but also the exquisite dishes we tried at the on-site restaurants, some of the best places to grab a hearty lunch in Florence. On a less secular note, Florence is dotted with grand churches where you can marvel at renowned works of art. One of our favorite among them is Santa Croce, a beautiful church that lends its name to the neighborhood it dominates. If you have time to visit just one church apart from the cathedral, make it this one. Inside, you will see the tombs of personalities such as Michelangelo, Galileo, Machiavelli and Rossini, the Italian composer. You can also take a stroll through its tranquil cloister or visit other areas like the refectory and the crypt. Not many guidebooks will tell you to visit Chiesa di Ognissanti if it's your first time in Florence, but you should if you are a great Botticelli fan. That's because Florence's All Saints' Church is the burial place of this well-known Renaissance painter. Similarly, if you are a fan of Medici, the hit TV show, you can't miss the magnificent Medici Chapels, the burial grounds of the mighty Medici family. Whether you're looking for a respite from the overload of art and information, or a serene place to take a stroll after a filling meal, Florence's Boboli Gardens won't disappoint. This historic park, in the heart of the Oltrarno district, was initially designed as the garden of the adjoining Pitti Palace, the seat of the Medici rulers from the 16th century onwards. The glorious layout of the Boboli Gardens served as a visual reminder of the power and wealth of the Medici. Nowadays, walking around the park, you can almost hear the breeze whisper stories of the House of Medici to your ears. Our favorite part of the Boboli Gardens is the Knight's Garden with its spectacular views. Your Boboli Gardens ticket grants you access to the nearby Bardini Garden if you visit on the same day. This enchanting garden transports you into a world of fairy tales where time seems to have stopped and the vistas of Florence look as though they are soaring over the horizon. The last suggestion on our list of the best things to do in Florence for first-timers is to take a day trip to see a bit more of gorgeous Tuscany. So make sure you add an extra day for this when planning your trip to Florence. From Florence, you can go on a day trip to the beautiful wine region of Chianti, or one of the picturesque towns nestled in Tuscany's rolling hills, like Siena, Florence's eternal rival. Alternatively, you can visit more than one place on the same guided tour from Florence, like the one we recommend in the description below. Dear viewers, we hope you enjoyed this video about what to do in Florence for the first time, enough to share it with your friends and subscribe to our YouTube channel. But, in these last few minutes, allow us to address Florence itself. Dear Florence, Bella Firenze del Cuore, how is it that you've taken hold of our hearts and refused to let go? How come, no matter the crowds and queues, you always manage to stay dazzling, captivating and enchanting? How can we quench this insatiable thirst of always returning to you as if hypnotized by your charms? And how many lifetimes would it take to stop missing you every time we say our goodbyes? Forever yours, Caterina Maria.